It's a beautiful Tuesday morning out here, so I figured why not just come outside, enjoy the sun, and read some parables to you guys from the great book from the Bible. The authority that Jesus challenged. One day, as Jesus was teaching to the people and preaching the good news in the temple, the leading priests, the teachers of religious law, people that I have an issue with, who are saying, hey, why are you doing Christianity this way when it's meant to be done this way? What authority do you have to do it any other way? So Jesus asked them, did John have the authority to baptize people? Did that come from heaven, or was it from human? So they talked amongst themselves and said, well, crap, we're at a paradox here, because if we say it was from heaven, then that means that we don't have any power, we don't actually have any say. But if we say it's from human, then the people are going to be mad at us because we've convinced them that John is a prophet, meaning a prophet is, a human that was assigned something from heaven. They were assigned a gift from heaven. And if they say that it was, once more, if it was a gift from heaven, they have no power. But if it's a gift from humanity and humans just have the right to baptize and do whatnot, then it takes the whole spirituality out of it. So they finally came back to Jesus and said, we don't know the answer. And Jesus said, well, if you don't know, I ain't telling you, because he knew ultimately they didn't want to be forthcoming and honest with them. Now, the parable of the evil farmers. Now, Jesus turned to the people again and told them this story. A man planted a vineyard, leased it to the tenant farmers, and moved to another country to live for several years. At the time of the grape harvest, he sent one of his servants to collect his share of crop, but the farmers attacked the servant, beat him up, and sent him back empty-handed. So the owner sent another servant, and they did the same thing to him again and sent him away empty-handed. A third servant was sent, and they wounded him and chased him away. What do I do? The owner asked himself. I know. I'll send my cherished son. I'll send my very own blood. Surely they'll respect him. But when the tenant farmers saw the son, they said to each other, here comes the heir to the estate. Let's kill him and get the estate for ourselves. So they dragged him out of the vineyard and murdered him. What do you suppose the owner will do to the vineyard? Jesus asked. I tell you, he will come and kill those farmers and lease the vineyard to others. How terrible such a thing will ever happen, as his listeners protested. And Jesus looked to him and said, Then what does the scripture mean? The stone that the builders rejected has now become the new cornerstone. Everyone who stumbles over that stone will be broken into pieces, and it will crush anyone who falls on it. The teachers of religious law and the leading priests wanted to arrest Jesus immediately because they realized he was telling a story against them. They were the wicked farmers. They were the ones afraid of the people's reaction. He said it right there, that the Pharisees, these religious experts, they're just evil farmers. They're trying to take, a land, an idea, a book, a word, a group that wasn't theirs, and force themselves on it. And we've seen this time and time again. This is just unfortunate human nature. Now, taxes for Caesar. Watching for their opportunity, the leaders sent spies pretending to be honest men. They tried to get Jesus to say something that could be reported to the Roman governor so that they could arrest him. They said, we know that you could speak and teach what is right and are not influenced by others. You teach the way of God. Now tell us, is it right for us to Now tell us, is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? He saw through the little trickery, and he said, show me a Roman coin. Whose picture and titles are stamped on it? Caesar's, they replied. Well, then he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give God what belongs to God. So they failed to trap him, but what they said in front of the people, instead they were amazed by his answer, and then they became silent. They were like, damn, we thought we had him at a trap, and he had the reverse Uno card on us. It was like Sasuke with the Rinnegan, and he switched places with them. He thought that they were all tied up in the trap, and he said, guess what? Switch places, and was like, guess what? Now you're the one trapped. Discussion about resurrection. Then Jesus was approached by some of the Sadducees, religious leaders who say there is no resurrection for the dead. And they posed this question, Teacher, Moses gave us a law that if a man dies, leaving a wife but no children, his brother should marry the widow and have a child. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, suppose there were 7 brothers, the oldest one married and then died without children. So the second brother widowed the married but also died. Then the third, then they continued to the 7th. Finally, the woman also died. So tell us, whose wife will she be in resurrection? For she married all 7. Jesus replied, marriage is for people here on earth, But in the age to come, those worthy of being raised from the dead will neither marry nor be given marriage, and they will never die again. In this respect, they will be like angels. They are children of God and the children of the resurrection. But now, whether the deal will ever be raised, even Moses proved this when he wrote about the burning bush. Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had died, he referred to the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So he is the God of the living, not the dead. They were all alive with them. Well, teacher, he remarked, some of the teachers of the religious law who were standing there, and then no one ever dared ask any more questions. That was a lot. Discussion about the resurrection. And that's a good question. And I wish there was a better answer of like, hey, if this wife gets married 7 times, whose wife will she be? And apparently, in the afterlife, if you go to heaven, there is no marriage and you will not be married. And in fact, you will be an angel. So being a freak on the streets apparently makes you an angel. So you're telling me Gabriel was a freak in the sheets during his lifetime, and then when he died, he became an angel? I don't know. Who is the Son? Who is the Messiah? Then Jesus presented them with the question, why is it, he asked, that the Messiah is said to be the son of David? For David himself wrote in the book of Psalms, the Lord said to my Lord, sit in the place of honor at my right hand, until I humble your enemies, make them a footstool under your feet. Since David called the Messiah the Lord, how can the Messiah be his son? How can his son be the Lord in which he worships when he became before that Lord? Then, with the crowds listening, he turned to his disciples and said, beware of these teachers of religious law, for they are like a parade around in flowing robes and love to receive respect as they walk in the markets and places, and how they love the seats of honor in the synagogues and the head of the table at banquets. Yet shamelessly they cheat widows out of their property, and they pretend to be pious by making long prayers in public. Because of this, they will be severely punished. And I'm so glad that the book of Luke is calling out these religious leaders and Pharisees. And honestly, this was a great spot for me to start out. I know there's a lot of, I won't say controversy, but a lot of people are like, why did you start out with Luke? Literally just, I don't want to say the Lord's calling or the Lord's will, but there's a lot of things that, whether it be the group of people, the guys that I hang out with there at the gym who wanted to start out with this book, there was like a lot of universal signs for me to pick up the Bible, start reading it, and start in Luke. And a lot of my issues with Christianity are these religious experts and these Pharisees who are so hypocritical, who vouch or claim to be such virtuous people, but when you look under the hood, they're no different than me and you, because I don't claim to be perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I think I suck most of the time. And in fact, most days I wake up thinking I suck. And I go about my day trying to prove to myself that I don't suck by leading as an example of light. I want to radiate light in people's lives. I want to be good. I want to be seen as great. And I want to have the strength to give myself grace and remind myself that I will get better. So if you feel low, if you feel like, you woke up and you feel like you suck, let this be your mantra. You are good, you are great, and you will get better. With that said, that was Luke chapter 20. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next one. Peace.